Why would a philosopher dedicate his life to defending a tradition already crumbling beneath his feet? Why persist in asking questions when the world around you demands silence? Damascius, born around 458 CE in Damascus, entered a world where the great philosophical schools of antiquity were fading into memory. Christianity was no longer simply growing. It was triumphing, reshaping the cultural and intellectual landscape of the Eastern Roman Empire. The ancient temples were being shuttered, their rituals forbidden, their scholars marginalized. And yet, amid this upheaval, Damascius chose to commit himself to the defense of ideas that many believed had run their course. His journey began not in Athens, but in the vibrant intellectual hub of Alexandria. Known for its towering library and eclectic mix of cultures, Alexandria still carried echoes of its Hellenistic past. Here, Damascius studied under Horapollo, a respected master of rhetoric. Under Horapollo's guidance, he immersed himself in the art of persuasive speech, mastering the techniques that could move audiences, sway opinions, and shape public discourse. But rhetoric, with all its polish and flourish, left him restless. Eloquence could win debates, but it could not unlock the deeper structure of reality. Words, however skillfully arranged, could only reach so far. This dissatisfaction became the fuel for his next step. The young Damascius turned his eyes toward Athens, the historical heart of philosophical inquiry, where the Neoplatonist philosopher Marinus was leading the Platonic Academy, a fragile remnant of the institution founded by Plato centuries before. Athens in the late 5th century was no longer the bustling cradle of democracy it once had been. The philosophical school, though still alive, operated under the shadow of suspicion, its future uncertain. Arriving in Athens, Damascius found himself not only among scholars, but also among survivors. The Neoplatonist tradition, once a flourishing current of thought, had become embattled, caught between imperial edicts and religious intolerance. Marinus, though a capable thinker, was acutely aware of the precariousness of their situation. The philosophical line that had stretched from Plato through Plotinus, Porphyry, Iamblichus, and Proclus was nearing its final chapters. It was in this environment, a mixture of intellectual brilliance and looming threat, that Damascius sharpened his mind. He absorbed the Neoplatonic doctrines, but refused to simply echo them. While many of his peers focused on preserving established systems, he became increasingly interested in their outer edges, the places where clarity dissolves into paradox. His mind was not content to map hierarchies of gods, souls, and intermediaries. He wanted to confront the heart of metaphysics itself, the question of first principles, of origins, of what lies beneath all things. Damascius quickly distinguished himself through rigorous analysis and bold questioning. He rose to become the last scholarch, or head, of the Athenian school, not merely as a caretaker of traditions, but as a challenger of their limits. His most important surviving work, Difficulties and Solutions of First Principles, reflects this spirit of relentless inquiry. It is not a book of dogmas, but of provocations. In it, he interrogates the very concept of the One, the highest, most perfect source of all existence, a key concept in Neoplatonism. But where Plotinus had confidently described the One as the origin from which all reality flows, Damascius asked whether even this was too simple, too confined by language. What if the ultimate source could not be called One at all? What if, in naming it, we already limit it? His argument did not reject logic, but instead pressed logic to acknowledge its own limitations. Damascius suggested that whatever lies at the root of existence is so utterly beyond description that it resists every effort at conceptualization. It is not merely unknown, it is unknowable. This was not a gesture of despair, but one of intellectual humility. While earlier thinkers mapped elaborate systems of emanations and divine orders, Damascius emphasized what cannot be mapped: the mysterious, the ineffable, the space where philosophy must surrender certainty and embrace wonder. His writing displays a profound respect for the power of thought, alongside a recognition that thought itself has edges it cannot cross. In a sense, Damascius redirected philosophy away from conquest and toward contemplation, asking not how much we can know, but how honestly we can face the fact that some things may lie forever outside our grasp. Yet this profound questioning unfolded against the backdrop of political reality. In 529 CE, Emperor Justinian declared the closure of the philosophical schools in Athens, seeing them as incompatible with Christian orthodoxy. The edict was more than a bureaucratic decision. It was the end of an era. Damascius, along with a small group of fellow philosophers, sought refuge at the court of King Khosrow I in Persia, hoping to find a place where inquiry could survive. The Persian king received them courteously, but diplomatic negotiations between Byzantium and Persia soon curtailed any dream of permanent sanctuary. Part of the peace terms arranged between the two empires included the philosophers' safe return, but their academic home remained closed, their circle dispersed. Damascius did not rebuild the school elsewhere. He did not establish a new generation of pupils to carry forward his work. What he left were not structures, but questions. Persistent, difficult questions about the nature of origins, the scope of human understanding, and the necessity of intellectual honesty. He died around 538 CE, marking the close of ancient Neoplatonism's long and turbulent chapter. Yet through his refusal to offer neat answers, Damascius remains one of philosophy's most provocative voices, a thinker who dared to admit what others could not, that at the deepest level of inquiry, silence may be the most truthful response.